let's real talk here. Like,
Okay.
so when we say hard, like to me, I think there's a scale of hard, right? To me, hard is running a marathon. Like that seems daunting and really, really difficult to me. Um,
Okay.
let's say that's physical hard, and then I can say mental hard could be, I don't know, having to concentrate for 10 hours straight. Like
Mm,
that's really hard. And there's certain people, there's surgeons that have to do that in long surgeries, right?
right.
And then let's say the easiest thing is, I don't know, going for a walk, and mentally it could be, I don't know, uh, doing a very basic task, right?
Okay.
I like to put it like, let's be real. Where does what you think is hard fall on that scale? Because I think when you can kind of name it and when you can kind of say, all right, maybe on a scale of 1 to 100, what I think is hard is maybe a 20 or a 10. Like
Mm.
nothing we're asking you to do certainly is on the upper level of that scale. So that I find has been very helpful for clients is just to be like, all right, let's take a step back. Where is this actually hard and where does it rank?
It's hard day. I'm gonna say it's a hard day and I'm having a hard time.
Talk to me. What's
And
going on?
well, I'm not gonna run down the list of things necessarily, but has to do with a sick dog, a hamster with a broken
Oh
leg,
man.
um, a kid who got punched by a friend of his at school. I'm telling you, like a hard day. And
Yeah.
listen, this is kind of on topic though, because what I've arranged for us to talk about today is about when things get hard. So I'm just going to put it out there. It's a hard day. I have that feeling, and I know you guys know what I'm talking about. It's like in your gut, and you're just like, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can do this day or this moment or this thing I'm supposed to do. And it feels like you just want to run. That's what I'm feeling today. And so I thought, let's just talk about hard.
I it's a good segue. I'm sorry it's the segue. But
Well,
yeah, I think it is a really, really powerful topic because I think our uh, definition of hard or how we view hard needs to change a little bit.
yeah. Well, and I mean, okay. So I guess if we want to talk about soapbox, this might get a little soapbox. It might not, though, because here's the thing. I really believe hard is built into our DNA, right? We are hardy. We've had to be hardy. Think of all the things that human beings have survived. It has not been easy. Hard is how we do it, right? Like, even just think in the recent past, freaking COVID, man. The world said, hey, there's a thing out there. Shut yourselves in your homes and stand by. We did hard. We did hard for a very long time, right?
Yeah, I think we're meant to embrace hard. We're meant to go through hard. I think it's truly the only way. I mean, physically, the only way to get bigger and stronger is to go through hard, and then your muscles and body adapt. Like, there's no way around
Right.
that. You can't go around that.
Right. So, the reason this topic came to mind when I was working on the writing and stuff for it, I've been seeing a lot of this kind of coming up when it gets too hard. Oh, this feels hard. This is hard. Well, yeah. Like if you want something different than what you've got, it is going to be hard. And the good news is that means you're doing it right. You're heading in the right direction, right? Because what we've got feels easy. And so, to your point, yeah, bodies under pressure going through hard are going to get hard.
Yeah.
Right. And life is the same way. It's growth, right? And you were talking about that earlier. Like growth is something that life is about.
Yeah, I think a big part of happiness is being in an atmosphere of growth when you're challenging yourself, when you're working towards something. That feeling is really empowering and it leads to feeling fulfilled and it leads to feeling happier. And that's not just, personal. I mean, that's been proven by research.
Yeah. No, and as you know, the point I was making earlier, um, if we think about it this way, right? Like, okay, an atmosphere of growth leads to feeling happier, leads to feeling fulfilled. But if we only hang happiness and fulfillment on the occasional goals we achieve, because like we were saying, you can't achieve, not really, you're not going to achieve big goals every single day of your life. It's just not the way things are set up to happen. We're not going to achieve an undergrad degree or a graduate degree or a doctoral degree every single day. But if that's what we're waiting on, then yeah, we're going to feel unfulfilled and unhappy and maybe even directionless between times. So this idea of hard being fulfilling, I wonder, now that I'm saying it out loud, what if we reframe hard as effort? What do you think about that?
Yeah. I mean, I think effort to me is the reward in and of itself. Like, it feels good to expend effort physically and mentally because you know you're
Mm,
getting closer to where you want to be. But effort in itself is rewarding. And I guess for some people, they don't feel that way. Or it's just that there's so many other things that require effort. There's so many other hards in their life that there's only so much effort to go around.
yeah, definitely. And I think too, I think you make a couple of really good points. So I think for some people, like any amount of additional effort is kind of a signal to stop, right? Like to back up, to back away from. And so let's talk about how do we overcome that? Because that's directly in the way of anyone achieving anything more than what they've already got. Look, so what do you think when somebody says to you, Adam, like it just that effort when that hard kicks in, I just got to stop.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm a, I love like what's something that you can do that can help you do everything else better, right? And it often comes back to this, but I do truly believe and know, and it's been proven that like when you focus on the fundamentals, right? Your nutrition, your exercise, sleep, fundamental foundational things, it helps you do and handle every other part better, right? And so often people come to us, it's like, this is so hard. I have too much going on. This is so overwhelming. Like, I mean, you could say if hard is up here, then you have, maybe discomfort, overwhelming, too much going on, crazy. I think they're all in the same umbrella, right? But it's like to give up on your nutrition and exercise goals because you have other hards or too much going on. To me, you're putting yourself right back in the same hamster wheel, right? Sorry to bring up the hamster, but
That's good.
you're putting yourself right back in the same position you were. You have to change your mindset. You have to change the way you're feeling to approach the problem differently. So to me, it's like first and foremost, what can we do that's going to impact everything else? And there's no doubt when you're a better version of yourself, and the best way to become a better version of yourself is to upgrade your nutrition, your exercise, improve your health. That is like a cheat code. It helps you do everything better. So that's first and foremost to me. How about you?
Well, so okay. The question was, how do you help somebody, I guess, approach hard, right? And you said, let's upgrade those kind of cornerstones of taking care of yourself. But then there's that the other thing I hear is I'm too busy, I'm too stressed. Everything else in life is too hard. How do I get in there and say I'm going to hard on this as well?
Right.
So how do you coach that?
Well, it's also like, what's the saying? If you approach a problem with the same, if you try to solve a problem with the same mindset that created it, you're not going to get, you're going to get, what's the, oh, you know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying. It's like I'm trying to solve this problem with the same set of tools that created it, and
Yes.
that's just
And
not going to work.
you have to change that. So another thing I
Yeah.
like to do is let's be real. Let's real talk here. Like,
Okay.
so when we say hard, like to me, I think there's a scale of hard, right? To me, hard is running a marathon. Like that seems daunting and really, really difficult to me. Um,
Okay.
let's say that's physical hard, and then I can say mental hard could be, I don't know, having to concentrate for 10 hours straight. Like
Mm,
that's really hard. And there's certain people, there's surgeons that have to do that in long surgeries, right?
right.
And then let's say the easiest thing is, I don't know, going for a walk, and mentally it could be, I don't know, uh, doing a very basic task, right?
Okay.
I like to put it like, let's be real. Where does what you think is hard fall on that scale? Because I think when you can kind of name it and when you can kind of say, all right, maybe on a scale of 1 to 100, what I think is hard is maybe a 20 or a 10. Like
Mm.
nothing we're asking you to do certainly is on the upper level of that scale. So that I find has been very helpful for clients is just to be like, all right, let's take a step back. Where is this actually hard and where does it rank?
Yeah. I like that. And I think there's so much talk. Like, I'm sure you've had this conversation with like somebody probably recently, like, oh, first world problems, right? Like, but really, I mean, again, think on the scale of like the things human beings have overcome. Great Depression, 100 on the hard scale, right? Versus like 2023 inflation, seemingly not as hard. And listen, that I hope that doesn't come across as like, I have no idea. But again, like, I think you're right. Like, you have to get real. Like, we're asking most of our clients, like, hit the pause button when you have the impulse to snack and just ask yourself, why do I want to eat? Where is it on the 100 to nothing scale of hard? Right? But in a day of doing a lot of hard, I get it too, like this feels hard, but again, put the scale there. I think that's a really great tool.
Yeah. What about you? How do you coach people through hard?
Yeah, I just dial it way back and I say like, let's try it just this once. And I also set up the expectation of like, it isn't going to feel easy. You are not going to want to do it. Your brain is going to scream every single rationalization for why you shouldn't do it, right? This is not going to be something that when the time comes, you're going to freely choose to do. But we're going to do it anyway. We're going to set a boundary on it, a time limit on it, right? Like if it is the pause, for instance, just 1 minute, set a timer, and then go and do whatever it was you had the impulse to do. And that I think really helps too, because hard doesn't feel like this endless cavern of terror.
Yes. Yes.
So I think that makes it really accessible as well. But it's sort of like I'm a personal trainer and a group fitness coach. And so sometimes I have to dial like a plank way down, right? Like you have to modify it way down and be like, here are all the ways you can modify this to make it accessible to you. And so I think maybe using your scale of 0 to 100, like figure out where it is on the hard scale and then dial it back to where it almost makes no sense not to give it a go.
Yeah. The question I always like to ask is what's the least you can do without doing nothing? And you want to break it down into the smallest possible chunk as possible. Because going for a run might seem daunting, but going for a walk, like you want to always break down things into the smallest chunk possible. That always helps. And like if you can name it, you can tame it. And I always say like discomfort is your compass, right? So we could say hard is your compass, discomfort. I think we're talking about the same thing here. And
right.
Like there's been times where I've really, really wanted ice cream like after dinner, right? And like one of my goals and one of my like kind of things I try to do is like sit there for a little bit and see how you feel and like get through 5 minutes. If you still want it in 5 minutes, or if you still have fruit first, and then if you want it, then potentially you can have it. And there are times where it's like it's like an itch, right? I equate it to like an itch, right? There's a physical itch and then there's a mental itch. And when that mental itch is like going, where you just like all you can think about is the ice cream, it's like there are times where I literally start laughing because I'm like, wow, this is insanely uncomfortable. Like it's so uncomfortable. But like I will get through it. It's just an urge. It's just a craving. Like we can get through this. And knowing that like, in 5 or 10 minutes, I will feel completely different than I do in the moment always helps as well. But I think naming it makes it so much easier to tame it because it's like, oh, there's a discomfort we're talking about. And when you're just like, all right, there it is. It's like, all right, I can get through this. Here we go. Game on. Like, and we can do this. And to your point, it's like, we're not saying do it forever. 5 minutes, right? Or a minute or whatever it might be. Like, break it down to the smallest possible chunk.
Yes, definitely. All right. So let's try to tie this all up because I do want people to kind of come away from this video. We've done a lot of chit chat about hard and effort, and it's all very valid and very poignant. But so bottom line is we're not going to go anywhere from where we are without effort. That's just the truth of the matter, right? Like we cannot get to point B unless we put one foot in front of the other. And so let's talk about steps. First one, we can't restate it enough. You got to have a crystal clear desired outcome. I'm going to call it a desired outcome because often our desired outcomes are not met exactly. And often they're way better than we could have imagined. At least that's been my experience, right? What do you think?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
So you got to be crystal clear on your desired outcome. Let's just take your example, Adam. Like, what is your desired outcome when you put the brakes on that ice cream craving at night? Why do you bother?
Well, because I know it's not going to help me with my short and long term goals. And I know it's my emotions talking. It's not, a planned indulgence. It's not with family. It's, I'm using food in that moment, not enjoying it. And sure,
Okay.
I may enjoy it, but probably what I would enjoy more is getting rid of the itch more so than the ice cream, right? Sometimes we're just like giving in because we don't want to have to deal with the itch or the discomfort versus what we really and truly think we want.
Right. And it's really about who you want to be, right? You want to be somebody who doesn't, and let's just not say blanket never uses food, but you want to enjoy the things you love with the people you love, right? Like
Yes.
that's who you want to be, right? So that's a really crystal clear identity component. That's why it's important. That's your desired outcome, to enjoy the food you love, not use the food to deal with the itch.
Yes.
All right. So that's pretty clear. And now you've kind of identified step 2, paths to get there. And one of them is you check yourself. I got an impulse, I got an itch, I'm going to hold, right?
Right.
And on the scale that you talked about, you figured out how hard, how easy that might be, and you've given it a time limit. And I think that's really important. You have to see a path forward to that desired outcome, or it's not going to work. Like if you're like, well, I want to, be this person, but I have no idea how to be that person. Well, it's dead in the water, right? So you really have to have some clear steps forward, right?
Yep.
And I want to throw in like a step 2 in there. And this is going to sound really cheesy. And for all of you out there who say, no rewards for effort, no A for effort, this isn't everybody gets a trophy kind of thing. Well, I'm not talking about everybody getting a trophy. So just hang with me a second. But I do want to say there is research out there now happening that is proving if we would get on board with rewarding and celebrating effort, there'd be a whole lot more effort going on, right? Like, don't poo-poo effort. That's the way I feel about it. I turn everything into something that matters. Everything matters, right? And then we have a day that's worth living, a life that feels fulfilling and happiness, not waiting around for a goal to be achieved, not hanging out with my head hung low because, well, all I had today was effort, not a goal achieved. Sorry, I did say at the beginning, this might be a little soapboxy, but I did want to throw that out there. Adam, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's classic like growth mindset. I really try to praise my kids, their effort, not the outcome, right? And if you could fall in love, you hear any amazing athlete talk about how they fell in love with the process. And I think what they mean is, I know what they mean because we work with some of them, I've worked with some of them, like they're falling in love with the daily training, the daily nutrition, the daily recovery. Like they fall in love with that process because they know each little step is helping them become who they want to be, helping them get closer to where they want to be, right? So, I think that's what it comes down to. You're falling in love with the journey, not the destination. As cheesy as as that sounds, it's true though, because it's like most of our life is the journey, not the destination.
Right. Well, and I think too, like just to kind of throw this last little bit in there, but like if you think about it, like even when you get to the desired goal or outcome or destination, it's not like a static point on a scale. It's not like an end, right? So it's kind of silly along the way not to make the most of the journey, not to figure out how to be happy in the journey, because even once you achieve said goal, I mean, the journey isn't done. right? And we teach this all the time to our clients. It's like, look, even if we get to your weight loss goals, when we get to your weight loss goals, or when we get you where you want to be, this is not the end. All the things we've taught you all along the way, they still apply. You're going to go out there and keep living them, keep going. So I think too, this is a great opportunity to kind of learn to celebrate the hard, the efforts, right? Because that's how you feel good about your life. And then B, realize that achieving a goal isn't an endpoint. It's just more reason to continue to celebrate the efforts, because you got to keep growing once you achieve it.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite thing I hear, from client, or one of them is like, once they reach their initial goal, it's like, all right, what's next? Because they wanted another mountain to climb, and there's a reason people achieve success and they keep going, because it's fun to pursue things. It's fun to be working towards something. That work, that effort is rewarding, and I know it can be challenging. I know it can be daunting, but I think to kind of wrap this up a little bit, there's a lot of things you can do to make that hard, or that effort, or that discomfort feel and seem less scary, right? Number one is, define why you're doing this. I think number two is rate it. Like, where does this actually fall on a scale of 1 to 100? Did I just say number two? Number three is, always start small, right? So ask yourself, what's the least you can do without doing nothing? Break it down, right? Like, the smaller you can go, the better. What else?
Celebrate the efforts.
And celebrate the effort.
Celebrate the efforts. Don't poo-poo them.
It feels good to do good. It feels good when we're working towards something. And if you think about anything in your life, perhaps besides fitness, like, there's countless things you've accomplished that it felt so good because you were working towards it. And as you were working towards it, it felt good as well. And I think one of the things, like, I often hear from clients is like, after a few weeks or even a few months, it's like, I feel so good. And I think, it's just because when you're eating more nutritiously and you're moving, like, that feels good. But it's also, I think, their mental, like, is in alignment. Like, when your desires and actions are in alignment, that feels good. And it's like they know they're working towards something that is important to them. They're holding up to their values. That feels good. And that effort each day feels good. Yeah. And I think sometimes that's also why people feel guilty when they're not working towards it, because it's important, but that's another video.
Yeah, we'll save that one for next time. Well, listen, Adam, thanks for asking about how my day was going. To all of you who watched this video, thank you for inspiring me to show up despite this day being hard. I hope that our discussion has inspired you to put some effort in, no matter where you are on the scale, and just keep it small and simple and celebrate whatever effort it is that you put in today. We'll see you soon.